Right, our first guest can bring us up to date on the new version. Two West End icons. One is responsible for shows like Phantom of the Opera, Cats and Evita, and the other has choreographed everything from Grease to Guys and Dolls. Please welcome Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber and Dame Arlene Phillips. Good to see you. So lovely to have you with us.
Wonderful to have you here. And we can't talk Starlight Express without one of the trains. So please welcome Rusty himself, Jeevan Braich. Come on in, Rusty. Come on, Jeevan. Look at you go. What an entrance.
This is very exciting.
Now, Jeevan, before we talk about you having to learn to skate for a role, you're 17 years old.
Yeah.
You were discovered on TikTok, and here you are about to star in an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. I mean, what a turn of events. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm still processing it all, to say the least, but every day I wake up and I'm like, this is a dream.
And how hard was it learning to skate? Because you'd not been able to skate before, had you?
Blood, sweat and tears is the only way to describe it, but it's all worth it. All worth it.
Oh,
so,
my goodness.
Well, you look
and
amazing.
look, Anita has
We're matching.
dressed
I did it on
as
purpose.
Rusty.
It was meant to be.
Yes.
There you go.
Homage.
Andrew, as we saw there, people are very excited about the return of Starlight Express. It's been loved by people for years and years and years. But for people who haven't seen it, can you summarise the sort of story?
Well, the great thing about Starlight is that it was a show that was really written about my two, kids at the time. And it's really a version of Thomas the Tank Engine, but it's evolved into something quite different. And it's really a show about, I don't know how to put this really properly, but it's about come to the theatre for the very first time. It's not about, this is the greatest musical ever written, but it's a fantastic show if you've never been to a theatre before. And the thing that I think I'll talk to Arlene about this, but I think one of the things that I was most proud about when it happened is that we had more people of colour in the cast in our first production than the whole of the West End at the time. And it's about just saying, come to the theatre, have a great time, and, well, hopefully you go and see other things like your wonderful Guys and Dolls.
It was a massively diverse show, but what was so extraordinary about it is that it mixed together pure musical theatre with a sporting event.
Yes.
With the races that are hugely challenging. But it's based on a little child's dream. And this new production really opens that dream. It's extraordinary.
So why bring it back now, and how different is it?
Well, I think it was time that seemed to be... what Starlight Express did all those years ago is I think that it was the first show that was truly immersive. And immersive theatre now is happening all over the world. And I think in Wembley, where we're doing it, which I'm delighted that we're doing it because we're not in the West End. It's great that we're sort of breaking barriers again like we did, Arlene. Do you remember?
It's like a home for
we were in Victoria when we started. Nobody thought that you'd go and see a show in Victoria.
No.
But now we're in Wembley. And the whole point of it is that it's about something that just involves you in the theatre. I mean, Arlene's original choreography was absolutely superb. And it's wonderful in a way that we both, slightly being the eminence grises, if we may say, but can actually hand it over.
Yeah.
But that's why we're doing it again, because it's about getting people into the theatre who don't normally think they might go to the theatre. They go to the theatre and then they say, oh, my God, it's a fabulous place to go.
People in the theatre watching for the first time and on the stage as well. So, Jeevan, what was it like for you, getting onto the stage for the very first time? What was that moment like for you?
It was overwhelming, to say the least, but it felt right. I think no matter how young I could be, I'm there like, this is exactly what I wanted to do.
Was it? Is this a dream of yours? Did you always
Absolutely.
want to be on stage?
This was it. I mean, granted, I didn't factor in the skates, but...
Did you know about Starlight Express? Had you seen it?
My parents had. So when I asked them, what's Starlight Express? My dad said, he can say for sure it's the only musical he's ever watched that he's not fallen asleep in. So that's all I needed to know.
I think what's so great is I took my grandchildren, my daughters grew up with this, took my grandchildren 3 and 5, and in that show there were little kids and there were people probably in their 90s, it's any age will fall in love with it and can't get out the music from their heads. And this show, Andrew has brought in new characters, but the show has been going, I think it's 36 years in Germany, and Andrew has updated this show as a constant since 1984.
Well, we've worked and there's been a production in Bochum now, which I would like to say is the longest running musical in the world, because I think it genuinely is.
In one theatre,
in one theatre, it actually technically is the longest running musical, which Arlene has looked after all of this time.
Well, Arlene's an absolute legend.
Yeah.
We are mega fans.
We are.
We are absolutely
We were saying that
fangirling.
earlier, Arlene.
Thank you.
And we have to say congratulations on winning your Olivier Award for Guys and Dolls.
Thank you,
Bravo.
James Cousins,
Absolutely.
my amazing associate.
I mean,
Yeah.
did you get to a point where you think, maybe I just won't get one now? I mean, how did it feel receiving it?
That night, I didn't think we would ever get it. But I know for Guys and Dolls, it's very different. It's very inventive. This show was, is set in the 40s, late 40s. And the choreography was absolutely of that style. And James and I together have reinvented it for a new generation. And it is immersive too.
It's another immersive show, and it just shows the way that I think theatre's going to go.
Yeah.
I think people are going to want
And to
see
get
things
children
in
involved in
different spaces.
theatre,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
perfect.
Part of it.
And be part of it.
To be able to shout along or sing along or travel along.
Well, and if ever
Yes.
there was an advertisement for dancing, it's you, Arlene. We should all be dancing.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrew, Arlene, and good luck, Jeevan. I should say break a leg, or maybe not break a leg.
No, definitely not.
Not right now.
Don't.
Please.
I'll try my best.
Don't break a leg.
Don't panic. She doesn't mean it. She doesn't mean it.
Tickets for Starlight Express at the Troubadour Wembley Park Theatre are available now. Not before we've spoken to our next
No,
guest, though.
definitely not.
Time now to welcome one of our favourite actors. He starred in Good Omens, Twilight and The Queen, and just this year took to the stage at the National Theatre and has made his directorial TV debut in the BBC drama The Way. Please welcome Michael Sheen.
Welcome. You know how much we
Nice
love
to
having you
see
here.
you.
Yeah, we do.
Do you know what? The viewers love when you're on because we've been inundated already. So we're gonna get straight to it.
Yeah.
Laura says, I saw you and Nye in Cardiff
Yes.
and it made me cry.
Oh,
and we saw
it was
you
that
sing and
bad.
dance. It's terrible. She said we saw you sing and dance
Yes,
in
I
it.
sang and danced in that.
Yes,
I did.
So, question, Andrew will be interested now in the
Yeah.
answer here. Would you ever consider a musical?
Oh, I've considered it many times. It doesn't really consider me. That's the problem. I wish I had been blessed with the voice to play Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar. I remember listening to Jesus Christ Superstar over and over again in my bedroom when I was a teenager on my record player and just thinking, if only I could sing that song. And whenever I hear the there's nothing more thrilling
Be
than
in
that.
it. You
So I
can
would love
hold
to.
it.
I bet you can do it.
I could not.
You're Welsh, you can hold a tune.
Exactly.
He's so high. He sings so high in it.
I know,
Yeah,
but
he
try
does.
something a little bit less demanding.
Yes, I know. I don't do that. Welsh people don't do anything by half, Andrew. That's the
Andrew,
thing,
have you
isn't it?
got any with a rap in it? Maybe that would be
God.
nice. Is that your bit?
No,
There's
no,
one
no.
show we're doing at the moment that has a rap.
Oh,
How's your
please.
roller skating?
There you
My
go.
roller skating is surprisingly good.
Excellent.
Right, OK, what role?
Well, we have to have a popper instead of a mama.
Excellent.
We will, yes,
Go
we
back
will.
to-
Yeah.
We've
Okay,
facilitated
that's
it
another
here
bit
on
past
live
that.
TV. Now, Michael, you're actually here to talk to us about your new podcast, Buried the Last Witness. Tell us, who is the last witness?
Well, the last witness is a man called Douglas Gowan, whose story I just stumbled across, really. I was in America, in my house there, when I was living there. This was about 7 years ago, I think. And I just came across the story of this man completely randomly. And I was absolutely captivated by it and kind of terrified by it and compelled by it and wanted to know more. Essentially, he was a man who in the 60s, he was a young man in the 60s, working for the National Farmers Union, got called to investigate strange occurrences on a farm in South Wales, horrible things happening to livestock there. He went down, he believed that there was a connection between what was happening to the livestock and a disused quarry next door that had chemicals, toxic chemicals being dumped into it, what we would now call forever chemicals. And they were being dumped into it from a big multinational corporation factory up the road in Newport. And he started to discover and learn the dangers of these chemicals being dumped and that they were leaking out into the environment. he then spent his life basically crusading to try and get people to take this story seriously and to understand the dangers, potential dangers, not only to the community around that site, but many, many sites that this stuff was being dumped in. So I came across this story. I thought, this is extraordinary. I thought it would make a great drama for a start. But I also thought, as I was reading it, I sort of couldn't believe that, there was nothing more written about this than I thought, well, this is such a big deal that surely there should be more written about it. But also what he seemed to be saying was that not only was it a danger then in the 60s and 70s, but actually it would become a greater danger in the future, and that future is now.
And you interviewed him.
So I thought, well, I need to meet this man, if he's still alive. I didn't even know if he was still alive. And I found out that he was alive. He was living in Norfolk. And so I reached out to him and I said, could I come and, record your story? And he said, yes, you should come soon because I'm going to be dead soon. Yeah. And so I went down, I spent 2 days with him, videoed his entire story. And then I had this footage. I thought, well, what do I do with this now? I need an investigative team to take this on, but I didn't know anyone. Well, years later, someone got in touch with me and said, we're an investigative team and we'd like to do something about this story.
Only
Hence
Michael
the podcast.
Sheen. Well, listen, let's have a little look at some of that interview. It was extraordinary. Here it is.
It was a life-changing moment. I wanted to know who was responsible for this, what had caused it, and I wanted those people to be held accountable. And the fact it's going to affect our food chain, it's going to affect our water supply, it's going to affect the environment at large.
Oh my goodness. The thing is with this, I was listening and I thought, does he feel like maybe he's looked into something here or delved into something that maybe he shouldn't have? Because it's opening quite a big can of worms, isn't it?
Well, it's kind of overwhelming, I mean, we hear so many stories about pollution and the environment, and it's sort of a bit hard to take in. But through following Douglas's story, you start to see the specifics of it. And in the podcast series, what Dan and Lucy, who are the investigative journalists, who are amazing, they have spent a year investigating this, and alongside the Royal Society of Chemistry, they have done sampling and testing in various sites around Britain of soil, of food, and of their own blood to check the levels of this particular forever chemical called PCBs to see what the levels are like. And the extraordinary thing is, what they found is that in these samples, the levels are way, way above what you would expect to see. I mean, to some extent, there's one place where it was 12,000 times higher than what would be expected to be found in. And the thing about these forever chemicals, they're called forever chemicals because they don't degrade in the same way as other things. They stick around for hundreds of years, multiple generations, and accumulate not only in the environment, but in the food chain, and then, therefore, in us.
It is such a fascinating listen. Buried, The Last Witness, is available on BBC Sounds now. We could go on about this for another hour.
It's a big story.
But sadly, we are out of time.
Now, before people start panicking, as Michael was talking about the forever chemicals, they have been banned, but the problem is they still exist in the environment. But if you're keen to know more, then listen to the podcast.
Absolutely, there you go. Now then, just a quick comment for you, Andrew. Leanne says, me and my mum saw Starlight Express last Friday and again on Saturday. Thank you for bringing it back in the best way. My mum saw the original and is so happy.
Well, that's great. And of course, we got a new message because steam trains, when Arlene and I did it originally, were coal-fired. Now, go to Starlight Express now and you'll see that steam is the future.
It's
I'm not going to say anymore.
Hydrogen.
We have to say that is all for tonight. Thanks so much to all of our guests. We are back on BBC Two tomorrow from 7:10, where we'll be joined by world-renowned artist Jonathan Yeo, who recently painted the first official portrait of King Charles. He'll be here to exclusively reveal his latest portrait, which is of none other than Sir David Attenborough.
Amazing. Plus, we'll be joined by Amazing Spaces' George Clark. See you then.
Bye-bye.